The class library that's a part of the JDK includes a rich set of classes designed for network communications. Among the tasks that they support, they give you the ability to easily retrieve and read files over the web. I'll show you one approach to doing this using the classes of the Java class library. I'll mention before I get started that there are easier ways that require less code if you use the Apache Commons library, but it's good to know what's available in the core class library first. I'm working in a project called Network Files and a class called ReadNetworkFile, and I'm working with an empty main method. The first step in getting a network file is knowing its location. You should wrap the location in the file in an instance of a class named URL for Uniform Resource Locator. I'll type in the name of the class, which is all uppercase, and I'll press Control-Space and choose the version in the package java.net. I'll name that variable URL all lowercase, and then instantiate it using the URL constructor method. I'll start with a pair of quotes. Now the purpose of the URL class is to wrap a string that indicates the location of the file. So now I need the file. I'll go to Internet Explorer. I'm going to be retrieving a dynamic XML feed from the web. Here's the URL: http://services.exploreCalifornia.org/rss/tours.php. When you view this file in a browser, its format will differ from one browser to the next. In Internet Explorer, it might be formatted the way you see here on the screen. Or if you're working in Chrome or Firefox, it might have a hierarchical presentation. But regardless of how it's presented visually, the actual format is XML. You can see this in any browser by right-clicking and choosing View Source or some similar menu choice. That will open the raw format of the retrieved content, and you'll see that it's an XML file. And you'll also see that it's in RSS format. RSS is the format that's used for syndicated content. For example, if somebody has a site that's based on WordPress, typically you'll be able to get an RSS feed of their content from that site. So now that I've confirmed that this URL provides a valid XML feed, I'll copy the URL to the clipboard and return to Eclipse. I'll place the cursor inside the double quotes that I used to pass in the value to the URL, and I'll paste in the URL string. I'll maximize my editor so we can see all the code. You'll see an error occur over on the left. It's telling you about a potential unhandled exception. We'll deal with that later. The next step is to create an instance of a class named InputStream. I worked with this class in an earlier video when I opened a file from the local file system. It's the same data type, but this time I'm going to create the reference to the object by calling a method of the URL class using url.openstream. So now I have my connection to the file on the web. I'll place the cursor after InputStream. It looks like I didn't get my import statement, and then press Control-Space, and I'll make sure that I'm choosing the InputStream class from java.io, and there's the import. Next, I'll create an object which is an instance of buffered InputStream. I'll type the beginning of the class name and press Control-Space, and Eclipse automatically auto-completes it, and I'll name that object buff for buffered, and I'll instantiate it using the class's constructor method, new buffered input stream, and I'll pass in the stream object. The purpose of the buffered input stream is to do the same sort of looping that I did in the file, allowing me to read one or more bytes at a time as I loop. Again, there's an indication of an error over on the left. Don't worry about that, I'll handle it later. Now we're ready to loop through the content of the file. I'm going to be reading the file this time 1 byte or 1 character at a time. In order to collect that data, I'll create an object based on the string builder class. I showed you how to use this class in an earlier video. The purpose of string builder is to let you append content or insert content into a string without having to constantly rebuild the string object. I'll name the string builder object SB, and I'll instantiate it with its constructor method. Now I'm ready to loop through the file and read it 1 byte at a time. I'll create a while loop. I'll type the word while and press Control-Space and choose while loop with condition. And I'll set the condition to the keyword true. That means I'm going to keep on looping until I call the break command, and that'll cause the flow to jump out of the loop. Each time through the loop, I'm going to read a single character from the stream. The buffered input stream class has a method called read, which returns a single byte. It'll be returned as an integer initially, so I'll declare a variable named data and declare it as an int, and I'll get its value from buff.read. The rules are that as long as there's an available character to read in the stream, the read command will return an integer value representing that character. But if it's gotten to the end of the stream and the end of the file, it'll return a value of -1. So I'll take a look at the value that I just received. I'll use an if command, and this will be an if statement, and the condition will be data has a value of -1. If that condition is true, that means that I'm at the end of the document, and so I'll break out of the while loop. But otherwise, which I'll put into the else block down here, I'll append the value that was returned, first converting it to a character, using this syntax, sb.append data. But before I can pass that data value, I have to convert it to a character. Otherwise, it'll be converted as a numeric. So I'll use casting syntax. I'll place the cursor before the data value and put in paren char close paren. That means take the integer, convert it to a character, and then append it to the string. I'll place the cursor after the while loop, and finally, I'll output the value that I've collected using system.out.println, and I'll just output the value of the string builder object. You could, if you prefer, convert the string builder to a string if you're going to keep it around in memory for a while. Now, I've still got these errors up here I have to deal with. Each of the errors indicates that there's an unhandled exception that could occur. As with all such conditions, you deal with them by wrapping the code inside a try-catch block. So I'll select everything that I've coded inside the main method. I'll right-click, I'll choose Surround With, Try-Catch Block. And Eclipse figures out which exceptions could occur and creates catch blocks for each of them. I'll remove the to-do comments, and my application should be complete. I'll save and run it, and there's the result. The XML file is retrieved over the web and displayed in the console. So again, this is one approach to retrieving files over the web and dealing with their content. Once you have the content in memory, you could save it to the local file system, you could display it on the screen in whatever sort of application you're working in, or because it's structured XML, you could search for and extract its data. This sort of coding, using the class library of the JDK, will work in any Java environment, regardless of whether you're working with console applications, web applications, Android applications. It's all the same code because it's all Java.